It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here from Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. Our guest this half hour is Scott Horton from antiwar.com. Now, Scott is a good, hardcore, no-compromise individual that's going to be another speaker at freedomsummit.com. And make sure everybody knows, if you're listening to this broadcast or you see the ads on Anti-War or you get it on Daily Paul, you go in there, you register, you pick student. Gives you a big discount. Big discount. And we're going to have Scott Horton talking to us about, what are you going to be sharing with us, Scott?
Well, I don't know if you had wanted me to give a speech on a particular topic or just say whatever I wanted or what. Ernie, you tell me.
The thing is that what we do with all the speakers is generally we have an idea. I mean, of course, you're not going to be talking about gardening, but, if we said it now, we could have invaded Iran by then. So the thing is we always kind of wait till the last 10 days before the summit before we start putting it up. But what are some of the things that you'd like to share with us you want to be sure to talk about?
Well, I guess my general idea, I hadn't really started writing anything out or anything, but my general idea was just to perhaps maybe go through a little bit of history and just explain about how because all of the wars are illegitimate, they are all surrounded, of course, in lies, because they have to somehow get us to at least somewhat agree that they mean well, at least, even if we disagree with how they're going about something, that, there's something important, like those commies attacked us in the Gulf of Tonkin, and now we're just defending ourselves, or, Saddam Hussein's agents gave anthrax to Muhammad Atta, or whatever kind of nonsense to get us to support the quite evil policies of, what a libertarian considers warfare to be simply just mass murder. The government is not doesn't operate under any separate rules of morality than we do, just separate rules of law, I guess. And so that would be my thing, I think, would probably just to sum it up, the war party is full of it. Everything they say is a lie, and that's because everything that they're up to is evil. And so they've got to convince you to believe in nonsense in order to go along or to let them basically get away with what it is that they get away with. And really it's the same thing on the domestic level. Everything that the state says is a bunch of madness, but a bunch of nonsense. But particularly on the wars, and the consequences from the wars, of course, are the worst of all for everyone.
Well, one thing that I haven't had time to do the research on it, and I was hoping you'd be able to help me with, was the some kind of deal the State Department or Department of Defense had in the Middle East with Israel getting a bunch of F-35s or something. You know anything about that? What's going on there?
Well, I don't know. If you read the Fort Worth Star-Telegram today, good luck to the Israelis flying them because they're going to be falling out of the sky. These things, according to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, it's the most expensive weapon system ever is the F-35. They call it high 300 billions of dollars, and the main engine casing has got cracks all over it, and that's from a test on the ground, not even a test flight. They say that this part was designed for 8,000 hours of flight. They've done a ground test up to 1,200-something hours, and all of a sudden their instruments went haywire because the darn thing's falling apart. This plane that we don't even need, that we never needed. I was just yelling and screaming about this on my own radio show a minute ago. We got all the F-18 Hornets and all the F-16s, all the F-15s and 14s and all our Warthogs and all our every kind of fighter that could be imagined that are more than a match for any Air Force in the world. If we had to take on Europe with our own planes, we'd beat them, Ernie. And it's just madness to think that we have to spend these hundreds, literally hundreds of billions of dollars on planes to fight the Soviet Union that were designed back in the 80s for fighting the Soviet Union that hasn't existed for a generation now. The F-35 has got to be the biggest case study in special interest politics. Who needs a Cold War? Nobody but Lockheed, and so we have one.
Wow, the idea that we're amping it up and arming for World War III doesn't make me feel any better. And so, what do you think? One of the things that you can share, and is there any positive aspects of society from antiwar.com that's going on? Or are people rising up? Are they rising up, or are they just
Well,
getting ready
from
for
reading
the next wave?
antiwar.com, I don't know. I hope they're all rising up in their own way. Honestly, Ernie, the way I look at it is that, and I don't mean to speak for the rest of everybody who participates in making antiwar.com what it is, but just my own view is that all my best efforts can't really, and maybe they could, pie in the sky kind of thing, but mostly I don't believe that what I say or do could really change the course of history or what happens, whether a certain war breaks out or not. But I do believe in the power of changing people's minds, and I know that there are individuals who, have benefited. So I look at it that way, changing the course of history of one person at a time. But then again, like you said, I'm a no-compromise individualist like that.
Well, what we have here in Arizona tomorrow, Dr. Paul's coming, and it's going to be a really big show with the at ASU. He's going to be at the Phoenician doing a fundraiser. He's going to be it might be that he and Rand might be able to bring something to the attention of the American people and free a lot more minds. I mean, what are you seeing is going to happen in 2012? Is it just another speaking tour?
Well, I wouldn't put it like that. I mean, if it is a speaking tour, it's not just one. It's the greatest one ever coming up. And that's what happened in 2007 and 2008 with that Ron Paul revolution. I know it was you and your people that coined that phrase and pushed that meme, Ernie, and I thank you for that. But that was the greatest speaking tour on behalf of peace and liberty in the history of all mankind. There's nothing that compares to it. There are meetup groups in Russia, meetup groups all over the old world, all over the United States of America. And I think the most important thing about it, and I've said this a million times, is that Ron Paul handed people a permission slip to be anti-war, and he said, "Look, I know TV has told y'all that." He didn't say this, but this is the role that he played was TV says that if you're anti-war, then you're like Michael Moore, and a lot of you people don't want to be Michael Moore. Well, here you can be anti-war and be like Ron Paul, Texas Republican, and and people went great. I don't have to be an America hating liberal whatever in order to oppose this imperial foreign policy. And that is the greatest contribution to me that Ron has made. And, of course, all the new Austrian theory economists in the world and a lot of young new anarchists and libertarians. And the thing is, as you remember, Ernie, in 2007 when Ron announced he was running for president, he did it on Washington Journal on C-SPAN at 6 o'clock in the morning. And the only people who knew about him was people like you and me and, one guy per neighborhood in every neighborhood in America really knew that there's this one good congressman, but it wasn't widespread knowledge. And now, look at where he's starting from. He's world famous. He's the most famous congressman from the House of Representatives in decades probably. I don't know. He's got a massive amount of influence. They can't help but invite him on TV because even though the establishment doesn't really like what he says, he's such a kind old guy, and so they invite him on all the TV channels all the time. They don't have to really learn from him, but they listen to him. And he's going to be starting from a much higher position of, I guess, fame, for lack of a better term, this time around. So, man, I hope he runs. And if he does, I can, pretty much assure you that the Republican Party of taxation and tyranny and death and lies is not going to give him the nomination. There's no amount of Democratic power that could bum rush those primaries and make him the Republican nominee. I don't believe it for a minute. But it'll be the greatest speaking tour on behalf of peace and liberty in the history of all mankind again, reprise. And it's going to be something incredible. I mean, I saw where just a few weeks ago, while he's, just won the election season, just kind of wound up, he just was reelected to Congress and whatever, and he gave this speech at the University of something or other over there in the Midwest, and 7,000 people came. Ernie, I mean, man, this thing is going to be huge. I'm so excited about it. And no, I don't believe that, the path to victory for liberty is through politics. To me, it's all about, speeches.
Yeah, no, I don't want to diminish it by saying just a speaking tour, but, that's what it is. It's a speaking tour, where we get to learn a lot more about it. We'll talk about it more with my good friend Scott Horton from antiwar.com/radio here in just a little bit.